Hey all, Gingergrow Ninja here and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be ranking every Gigantamax Pokemon competitively, in the VGC format because that's what I play. But before we get any further into it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff for the YouTube algorithm. It really helps me out a lot. And while you're at it, go ahead and follow my Twitch as I stream 3 times a week. And it's just a great place where you can all interact with me. With all that said, let's get into it. Right, starting up, it looks like the first one is Gigantamax Lapras. This is not in Pokedex order at all. It's just how I found this tier list. So Lapras, A tier. I would have put it in S tier, but for some reason, no one's really been using it. Looking at Peakalytics, it's got a 0.82 usage rate at the minute, which is really strange, considering it was dominating early Series 7, and has completely fallen off late. I remember it being around 5 to 10% usage, which is really good. But now we're not really seeing this thing. However, just because people have dropped this thing, it doesn't stop it from being good. Sure, it's not got the best stats in the world, but being able to set up a Aurora Veil is so good. Having your entire team bulkier just from one move, and it does quite a bit of damage as well, that's good. But the reason people have dropped off Lapras that stops it from being S tier is its damage output isn't great. Its attacking stats are both base 85. Special's more common, but if you saw my If I See a Poison Type the video ends, you'll know that Physical Lapras can be used alongside coaching. Overall, great mon, but it's unfortunate we're near the end of the series because I want to see this thing pop back up again. Next up, Eevee. Don't use this thing. Please don't. Save yourself the struggle. I believe its Gmax move is just Attract, and while that's fine, you can't really use this Pokemon if its stats are just that bad. And it's not even got Extreme Evo boost anymore because Z moves aren't the thing in Gen 8. I'm trying to click on it on Peakalytics to see what it does. Nobody's using it, so I can't even see. So yeah, just don't use Eevee. It's unevolved for a reason. Use something like Umbreon, Jolteon, Sylveon. The good ones of its evolutionary tree. I will admit though, it is cute. I did put it in A tier for my ranking every evolutions tier list. So check that out if you haven't. But yeah, it's definitely not suited for battle, more so a design thing. Now we have Snorlax. I want to say this thing's B tier. It's showing up a similar amount to Lapras, slightly less, it's at 0.58. But you can understand why it's not as good. Lapras' Gmax move benefits the whole team. Snorlax, it just gets to heal again or do custard berry things, make it go first again. It is flexible, but on a Pokemon like Snorlax where it's base 30 speed, it's difficult to be able to say this works. It's definitely fun where you can set up, do Follow Me plus Belly Drum, heal up from that with the Citrus Berry, and then go big next turn and replenish your berry. Eat it again, keep healing. It can definitely do so, but when this thing's physical defense is only 65, which is fine when it's got a base 160 HP stat, it's not really the best though. But all you need to do to beat Snorlax is run Urshifu, or just hit it on the physical side in general. It's not too difficult. Next up, Melmetal. Yeah, Mythicals are never going to be legal, just because they're so difficult to get when not every player has gotten the events all the time. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see a format with them, but Pokemon would never do such a thing because of the difficulty to get without hacking. And they're not going to encourage hacking, so always illegal. However, if it was legal. Maybe A tier though, because you can just hit it on the special side, I think, and it does a lot, as well as it being quite slow. But we'll never know because it's not actually used in the format right now. Next up, Qmax Rillaboom. Some of you will be surprised at this. B tier. Now, Rillaboom is, of course, one of the best Pokemon in the format. So why is it only B? Well, it's at 35% usage right now, which is probably the most out of every J-Max form looking at them. Yeah, it definitely is. But the reason Rillaboom's so good is Grassy Glide. The fact that its best attack gets priority is really strong because of grassy terrain. And even Psychic terrain doesn't really stop it from hitting. It just doesn't hit as hard and it's not priority. So good. Your ability being able to set up for your best move is so strong in a format like this, as well as priority with how many Prankster Pokemon there are. But the Gigantamax form, it doesn't get that priority. Because most Rillaboom are running Fake Out and Grassy Glide, when you're G-Maxed, that's not going to do as well as Grassy Glide normally would. And I know G-Max Drum Solo is a lot stronger, but Rillaboom on its own is just such a good Pokemon because of Grassy Glide that its Gigantamax form is just there as an option if you need it and nothing else. Because typically you don't want to max this thing unless it's defensive to double your HP. That's about it because you just don't see Rillaboom max. It's way better without its max. Rillaboom on its own, S tier. G-Max Rillaboom, because we're only talking about the G-Max forms, not the normal forms, it's B tier. Next up, Cinderace. First S tier. Why on earth did they make a G-Max form for this thing? Its normal form, it's fine, it gets the high jump kick, it gets bounce, it gets Iron Head, it gets Pyro Ball, and combine that with Protean, so good. But when you allow this thing to Dynamax, and just do so much more damage, like you can switch types defensively and offensively, and when it's kind of frail, but you're able to double HP, raise your physical defense with Max Steel Spike, and just have so much more damage output, and switch your type defensively, it's so good. If you think your team needs a lot of type coverage, Cinderace is the Pokemon for you, my fellas. Next up, Inteleon. This has never really seen play. I think it's C tier, but there's no way it's as bad as Eevee. 0.24 usage rate? Nah, it's not it. It's interesting how this Pokemon has changed though. A lot of the time you saw it with Focus Energy plus Sniper plus Scope Lens to get that crit along with Snipe Shot, because I believe Snipe Shot with Scope Lens and Focus Energy is always a guaranteed crit. Which is definitely strong, especially when Inteleon's got that base 125 special attack stat. It's good, but it's incredibly frail, and if you just hit it twice, it's probably going down, even in G-Max form. And because Regieleki is one of the best Pokemon in the format, nah, no chance. I have seen a few Choice Scarf sets with Soak and Icy Wind as support, which is definitely good, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that it's getting 2-shot all the time, even with Focus Sash. If not, maybe 1-shot. It's too frail to be good, you know? But it still has its uses preventing it from being D tier. Next up, Corviknight. I don't know if this is B or C tier, but considering how little it's been used, I think it's C. It's normally just a bulky Pokemon that's there to stall, and you don't really see it Dynamax a lot of the time, so like Rillaboom, it's in that spot where it just doesn't want to max. I believe Max, I can't remember its name, but it's definitely a good move, its max move, it sets up Tailwind, so definitely something to keep an eye out for, but it's not really a threat to the format. Like I said, Regieleki being strong right now kinda ruins it. Incineroar isn't really a counter to it though. It does have the type advantage, but Mirror Armor as its ability does help it out a lot, being able to reflect stat drops, so Intimidate doesn't work. Right, Orbeetle? It's weird. I think it's gonna be a C tier. Well, actually, it's D tier. It is seeing usage, don't worry. But it's 0.02%. You're not gonna see this thing much at all. It's more of a support thing, but it's not really bulky. It's got, well, I'd say that, but its defenses are 110 in defense, 120 in special defense. Yeah, you look at that and you think really good. But its HP stat is 60, so that just kind of ruins its appeal of bulk. So the things this thing's running now is Trick Room, Imprison, sort of stuff. Makes sense, it's base 90 speed, okay. And other than that, you see this thing with Bug and Psychic coverage, the occasional ally switch Hypnosis, and dual screens, but it's not really good. Its damage output is just bad all round, and let's be honest, if you want to use a Trick Room Imprison Pokemon, go for Indeedee Male. That's way better. The Bug type's also a bit of a hindrance because Bug is the worst type in the game. Psychic's also a meh type to have. If you do see this thing, it's likely not going to max. G-Max Gravitas? Gravity's okay. If you're running very strong, inaccurate moves, it can definitely help you team out. It's not as frail as likes of Inteleon. Its offenses don't really help it considering you're not going to be maxing this thing because of base 80 special attack. That's what you're using. No, don't use it. Coming up, Dreadnought. I'm thinking this thing's C tier. It can be used. It can be used. It's not like Orbital where it's absolute garbage. It can't really do much. But there are other Rain users. The reason you don't see this thing over Kingdra is because Kingdra's just better. If you see it, it's normally on the team with Kingdra. Actually, I say that, but 32% of the time it's with Kingdra. But yeah, it doesn't really have the speed to be a Swift Swim user too much. Base 74 is fine. I take that back. It's around equal speed to Kingdra. But when Venusaur is there as another weather abuser, and Venusaur is faster than this thing, by the way, not great. Also, Gmax Stone Surge, it's fine, but that is water move, so it can't really set the rain for itself with Max Geyser. And if it wants to go for a rock move, it really wants rain, but Rockfall just turns it to Sandstorm. So, you know, its max moves kind of contradict what it wants to do, really. It's only at 0.04%, but I think it can be used well. It's just Kingdra outclasses it. So yeah, it's just really. Next up, Venusaur. Venusaur no skill. I really want to put it here, just as a joke, but you know, it's S tier. The best weather abuser in the format. Double speed and sun, having a Gigantamax move that does residual damage 15% to a Pokemon at the end of each turn. That's incredible. Before that, the highest residual damage from one thing was poison. Other than toxic poison, but yeah, toxic's kinda bad. And poison did 12%, which is fine. But 15% is ridiculous at the end of each turn. It's easy to break Slash users, but Sludge Bomb, Max Ooze raises its special attack, as weak as it is. And Max Quake raising your special defense, really strong. Just being able to go fast and threaten every Pokemon in the format near enough that isn't Rotom Charizard. It's a difficult time for the format to deal with Venusaur. Corviknight, I am no sin on here. Great counter. Venusaur can only really hit it with a 4 times effective move, unless it's running Weather Ball, which isn't common in Series 9. But clearly a top 3 max Pokemon in the game. Now we got Colossal. Same reasons as Venusaur. You know what it does. Steam Engine and Weakness Policy activated. Haha, Colossal go brr, hit everything, OHKO it. And once again, Vocalith, doing 15% per turn to an opponent. Well, to both opponents if they're not Rock type or Dynamax. If they're Max, then it's 7.5%. It's still really strong. Of course, you do need a water move for this thing to go brr and do its thing. But once that gets going, there's no stopping it. Quick Eject button is probably one of the best strategies for this. Because Switcheroo Whimsicott is kind of good. It's definitely good against it. But that being said, that's about the only counter. You've got to stall out its max. And even then, Heat Wave out of max is a spread move that does a lot of damage still. And that being said, that is probably S tier complete, not gonna lie. Moving on, we have Flapple and Appleton. I know they're different, but I don't know what they do. However, I'm expecting it to be similar things. Yeah, they're both, well, Appleton's 0.3, Flapple is 0.1. Yeah, that's a D tier, I'm sorry. I've never really seen these things used. Oh, Appleton has Recover. It's fairly bulky, it's fine. Based on 100 special attack. Yeah, I'm learning here. But yeah, it does appear that they're not the greatest Pokemon. Oh, Flapple does get Hustle though. Okay, it's interesting what they do, but I'm definitely not one to give you advice on what to do with them. However, I'm thinking Appleton wants to be bulky, but it's not got incredible stats to do that. Flapple wants to go fast, hit hard, but it's got base 70 speed, so it's definitely not good for that job. That's enough said for them, because I don't know what else to say about them. Coming up next, Sandaconda. Not gonna lie, C tier. I think it's underused. It's definitely got some stuff going for it. With coil setup, I'm thinking it can stall rather well. Okay, so its Gmax activates Sand Tomb. That's fine. That's really good, actually. A bit of chip damage, not quite as much as Vocalith and Fine Lash. But it does have the trapping effect, which is definitely nice. I'm seeing a lot of weakness policy here, and honestly, it makes sense. A lot of people also running specially defensive. Makes sense considering it's base 70, which isn't great. I can definitely see an Assault Vest on it. 10% of people are running that. Oh, true! It can definitely be worked with on Perish Trap teams. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. I don't know if it'll be uploaded yet, but Sandaconda is going to be featured in a team soon on the Video End series, so look out for that. It can definitely be a solid setup mon. It can hit hard. Well, relatively intimidate is a factor though. And it gets access to high horsepower, rock slide, iron head, body press as its moves, which makes a lot of sense. Base 125 defense is great for a regular Pokemon. So I think it can definitely be used, and it is underrated right now. However, no one's really found a way to influence the meta in that way. Coming up, my favorite of them all, Gmax Toxtricity. This is just one of the coolest designs ever in Pokemon, but it's a shame it's quite bad. Its only stat over 100 is base 114 special attack. Other than that, it looks really bad on paper. It wants to go fast, hit hard. It's only got base 75 speed. You can definitely use it in Tailwind, but when your opponents have Tailwind a lot of the time, it's difficult to use. I'm seeing choice items on it. Focus Sash. Focus Sash makes sense. It's base 75, 70, 70 in HP, defense, and special defense respectively. It's also got a great ability with Punk Rock, but you're not really seeing anything else from it. That just helps it hit harder, but it doesn't have the speed or bulk to be a really good Pokemon at all, which is definitely a shame for it, because I really like it. Yet another air Pokemon coming up, Centiskorch. I've seen it increase in usage recently. I've seen it twice on the ladder, and it's definitely something I respect now. Of course, a 4 times weakness to rock does make this thing's job a little difficult, but this thing also has access to Coil, which is definitely a good setup move. I'm not really seeing it being used here though, which is interesting. But base 115 physical attack, it's good, it's really good. However, its physical bulk with base 65 defense, not great. And its special bulk is fine with base 100 HP and 90 in special defense. Defense and speed are the only things really keeping this Pokemon from doing well. Base 65 in both is not amazing. Too fast for Trick Room, too slow for out of Trick Room. But yeah, it is actually a good vehicle answer, unsurprisingly. With Flash Fire as an ability, having Fire Spin as its max move is also strong. Like Sandaconda, it does well with Perish Trap teams, I think. But you do need to remember this thing's physical bulk is not great, nor is its speed. So when using it, that's something you gotta watch out for. Other than that, it's kinda just But I can definitely see this thing being used. Next up, Hatterene. Oh, where's it going? Oh, hey tier. This is the Trick Room Pokemon of nearly all time. It's been around since day one in DD plus Hatterene, Trick Room plus Follow Me. I said that wrong. Follow Me plus Trick Room. It packs a punch. It's really slow, which is so good for it considering it's in Trick Room. Base 29, that's under speed in Glacier. Honestly, great. Steel types do ruin this thing a bit, however, Mystical Fire is a move option, and that is one of the top 4 moves at the minute, and they aren't really running Protect as much as the Gleam Trick Room Expanding Force Mystical Fire, because Trick Room does become Max Guard, which does the same thing as Protect would. But its G-Max move being able to confuse opponents, so strong. Like, you've got to play so cautiously around this thing in Trick Room. I did say its bulk was because of that 57 HP, not great. But its physical defense and special defense are still fine. Base 95, base 103. Solid. It's usable. I mean, if you're running a Trick Room team, Hatterene's always a top bet to use. Next up, Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl, phenomenal Pokemon. But it's got the Rillaboom syndrome as well. It's really good out of max, but a lot of the time, it doesn't want the max. 19% usage, it's great. Being able to set up screens with priority, so strong. It can't get pranked or taunted by Whimsicott because it's a dark type. However, none of these factors matter when G-Max Grimmsnarl is not really as good as regular Grimmsnarl. Prankster is what carries normal Grimmsnarl, but Prankster isn't going to do anything when you're Dynamax, so you're not really doing well. However, it's not in the lower tiers, because Grimmsnarl can definitely be used as an offensive Pokemon. Nothing's preventing it from doing that, and the surprise element of using that is so good as well. However, the thing that stops it the most is its speed. If you see this thing max, you can always go first, a lot of the time. If you look at that base 60 speed, you're mostly going to outspeed it and get hits in. And when its physical and special bolt aren't great, base 65 and 75 in defense and special defense, it's fine. But Grimstyle, really strong out of max, but in max it's kind of It's fine, it's usable, but non-max is better. Next up, Alcremie. It's solid. It's definitely a weird Pokemon. You can max this thing. It's got decent special attack, base 110. But a lot of the time you see this thing running fast Decorate. Decorate giving a weakness policy boost to your partner without actually doing damage to it. You can have a really offensive team if this is on it, because of that ability to go +2 with your partner and then max it. But Alcremie, all of the time, it's weird. It doesn't want to max. So G-Max Finale does heal you and your partner. So it's like Giga Drain being a Dynamax move or something. Yeah, it can be solid, but not always the best Pokemon to max. Yeah, it can be mixed, but it's Coming up, Copperaja. Unfortunately, it's not the best out there. Max Steel Surge. Being able to set Steel-type Stealth Rocks. Really good. But its stats are kind of weird. 122 HP, you'd think it'd be bulky. But 69 in defense and special defense, it's Also, base 30 speed is good. It's really good for Trick Room. However, its bulk is a rather weird spread. It can take hits like a normal Pokemon. It's not especially bulky, and it can hit really hard with base 130 attack. But I think its Dynamax form is better than its G-Max form. Because being able to raise your physical defense with Max Steel Spike over Max Steel Surge, which sets Stealth Rocks, like I said, is way better, especially when it gets high horsepower as well. The combination of that can truly make this thing really bulky, getting +1 in defense from Iron Head, +1 in special defense with high horsepower. It looks really good with a normal Dynamax, but Gigantamax Stealth Rocks aren't going to be good in this, so why would Steel-type ones be any better? So I think G-Max Copperaja is justified as a C tier. Okay, finally back to the really good Dynamax forms. Charizard. Probably A tier. It's not quite Venusaur, it's not quite Colossal, it's not quite Cinderace, they're all really strong. But Charizard, it's fine. You either use this thing on a Sun team itself, or as a counter to Sun teams. Other than that, you're not really using it much. However, I will say, this thing, G-Max Wildfire. Let me bring up its most common set. So, G-Max Wildfire coming from Blast Burn, with Life Orb, Solar Power, Sun Boosted, Stab, and Max Special Attack, not modest, it's timid most of the time, is a whopping amount of damage. I don't think there's anything else that does more damage in the format without any form of setup. Turn 0, we're not counting because that's just the leads, but Torkoal plus Charizard is so strong. That spread can OHKO, I'd imagine, Pokemon that resist it. I don't think Tapu Fini is an OHKO there, but when you're on a Sun team, you don't need to worry about Fini when Venusaur's in the back a lot of the time. So Charizard only really used for one thing, and that's its damage output in the Sun, with a good old base 109 special attack, which is solid. It's so strong. So Charizard's getting an easy A tier for that sheer damage output, and it's incredible. Right, next up, Duraludon. Oh, it's a weird Pokemon. Honestly, B tier. Duraludon on its own, it's good. It's really good. You love that damage output. It's got weird speed tier. It's fine though. It's usable. The only thing I'd say is really bad about it is its special defense with base 50. Most of which are running Assault Vest just to cover for that low special defense. But yeah, once again, same situation with Copperaja. Being able to lower your opponent's attack is far better than just lowering its PP. Like, G-Max Depletion, it's not really going to come in clutch a lot of the time, unless it's like an Urshifu Wicked Blow or something. But if you're versing Urshifu, Close Combat takes this thing out. And by the way, for Wicked Blow, that was just a placeholder. But it's basically any move that has 5 PP base or 8 PP max. But Duraludon, it's underused right now, I think. So it's a strong Pokemon, and with it getting access to Dark Pulse to lower opponent's special defense when it's a special attacker, that's great for it. Overall, a really solid Pokemon, but because of G-Max Depletion, I'm putting it in B tier instead of the A tier. Coming up next, the Urshifu forms. I might as well do them together, but B tier, also B tier. They're the same Pokemon, you'd expect nothing different from them. They also suffer from Rillaboom syndrome. I can't believe I'm using that as an actual term now, but it kind of does describe it well. The Urshifu forms, they don't want to Gigantamax, or Dynamax for that matter. Typically, they all run a priority move. Sucker Punch for Urshifu Dark, and Aqua Jet for Urshifu Water. While it's not as big of a difference as Rillaboom, because Grassy Glide is Rillaboom's best move, Aqua Jet and Sucker Punch aren't for the Urshifus. Urshifu's normally a late game Pokemon, and having that priority to get a last hit in before it goes down after it's gone to Sash, it can really be valuable for it. But once again, the Dynamax option is there. If you bring them out at full HP, your Dynamax target has gone down without Dynamaxing, and there's nothing else that can really Dynamax. Urshifu's definitely gonna max for you, because in that situation, you're probably in need of a comeback or something to Dynamax. So Urshifu is gonna do it for you in that situation. But otherwise, you'd never normally max them. They just want to stay normal size, go for a priority move to pick up that last KO. Next up, my favourite Pokemon of them all, the big tortoise tank, Blastoise itself. It's been seeing a lot of usage lately. That big 6% usage, like 1 in 20 teams have it, which is a lot. And its G-Max move doing the same thing that Charizard and Venusaurs do, with the 15% damage to opponents at the end of the turn that don't share a type with it. It's really strong, but the reason it's not quite Venusaur or Colossal level is it doesn't really have a gimmick to go with it. You could maybe argue for B tier as well, I think, because Blastoise is way better out of max than Venusaur and Charizard. And we're talking about the G-Max only forms, so, you know, Blastoise out of max is really good for its case. But yeah, with its recent rise in usage, it's got to be A tier. And Blastoise is one of those Pokemon that make me want Pokemon to add more move slots. Well, with Protect, Yawn, Hydro Cannon, Ice Beam, Blizzard, Fake Out, Water Spout, Scald, Shell Smash, Icy Wind. Incredible moves. It's also got like Flash Cannon and Aura Sphere as its coverage. You can do a lot with Blastoise and in and out of max, and it's so good in max that, especially with its move going 15% damage at the end of each turn, so strong. Easy A tier. Now we have Butterfree, a Pokemon we've not seen at all in a while. Honestly, it's another C tier. Its max move is just random. Its stats, being the regional bug type, are kinda bad. 0.07% usage, and once again, you don't really see it as a max option. It's more so just for Rage Powder support, but Volcarona and Amoonguss just do that better, as well as any other Follow Me user. So yeah, its top 3 moves, Sleep Powder, Pollen Puff, and Rage Powder. Amoonguss, pretty much always Rage Powder Protect, Spore, and maybe Pollen Puff, maybe Giga Drain, maybe Energy Ball, maybe Clear Smog, maybe Sludge Bomb. But yeah, Amoonguss is just a way better Butterfree. I know it doesn't share any types, but that 100% accurate sleep, and I know Compound Eyes on Butterfree is there. It's not quite 100% accurate though. It's like 82.5. Butterfree always holding Focus Sash, because you know it's never going to live a hit. But then again, Max Rockfall, it doesn't matter if it's holding Focus Sash because it goes down to Sandstorm Chip. Same with Hailstorm, it probably can't take many of those. But yeah, its best stat is base 19 special attack. You normally want a best stat to be around 110, 120 if you want to be a viable Pokemon. But no, Butterfree just defies that logic and says, I want to be bad. In fact, because it's well known for out of max, D tier. If it's used out of max more so, why should I even put its G-Max form in C tier? Next up, Pikachu. Surprisingly enough, this thing's C tier. So it is a similar deal to Butterfree, where its best stat is base 90, but that's in speed, that's different. It can actually go fast and do things. But the reason this thing isn't quite D tier, don't get me wrong, its stats are awful, is Lightning Rod. Its special attack base 50. Ew, disgusting. But if you can use that alongside a Discharge user, it's kinda nice. It can definitely do stuff. It can raise its special attack, and it can hit stuff, as well as the item Light Ball doubling its attacking stats just because it's Pikachu and they get mascot privileges. Its G-Max move is able to paralyze both opponents unless they're electric type, so I think even ground types can be paralyzed by it, which is solid. And with that base 90 speed, it is going to get it speed control, and Regieleki can't lower this thing's speed with Electro Web because of Lightning Rod. So yeah, it is solid. Well, it's not really solid. It's probably the worst C tier on the list, but it can do things, and really D tier can't much. Unlucky them. Just get better forms. Now up, G-Max Meowth, D tier. Honestly, its G-Max move doesn't do anything in battle. That's the worst part about it. It's only used to grind money in the post-game tournaments where you can just get infinite money. And even then, at level 100, when I'm using it, it's kind of bad. It still gets stopped by a lot of Pokemon of the gym leaders, which, not great at all for it. But yeah, Meowth, I don't even need to explain it. It's just unevolved. Its G-Max move doesn't do anything. There's no special item, really great ability, or anything. It's just there. Okay, now we're on to our final three. Machamp. Unfortunately, it's C tier. If it had good bulk, there would definitely be some stuff going for it. But its G-Max form isn't really used. Its ability No Guard allows for it to always hit, which when Dynamic Punch is a thing, it's so good. But when Gigantamax and Dynamax moves always hit anyway, it's pointless. So Machamp's whole gimmick is just to hit those Dynamic Punches, confuse opponents. So its G-Max doesn't really get much play. However, raising critical hit ratio is kind of strong, especially if you're, once again, alongside Inteleon. It can do stuff, but once again, Inteleon's not great, so you're looking for a bad team composition there if you're using both. I'm seeing Assault Vest is the most commonly used item, which makes sense considering its bulk isn't great. It's sub 100 on all the defensive stats, and 130 base attack is fine, it's really good, but when it's base 55 speed, once again, too fast for Trick Room, too slow outside of Trick Room, it's not great. It's not at all good for it. So because of that reason, C tier. Come out, Gengar. I think it's B tier. You could definitely argue C, looking at all the Pokemon in it. It's kind of similar. But Gengar has something going for it with Perish Trap teams, where Gengar's max move is able to trap in, which is way better than the physical defense drop when Gengar's a special attacker. It is on the 0.1% usage, but I think because Perish Trap teams are hard to use, it does make sense. You can see this thing outside of max a lot as well with access to Icy Wind, but because of its stats, it is more so an offensive Pokemon. Really good speed, really good special attack, and can definitely sweep through teams if you're not ready for it. I will say though, the thing keeping it from S or A tier is that it's very, very underwhelming in bulk. And when you're mostly on the Perish Trap team, that bulk is going to help save you a lot of the time. So in Gengar's case of Perish Trap, it's not as good as Mega Gengar was, I don't think. But it's still definitely usable, and I wish saw a bit more play this series. And finally, G-Max Kingler. D tier. It's awful, unfortunately. Its stats are just pathetic. Base 130 attack, really good. Base 115 defense, good. But is it really good when 55 is your HP and 50 is your special defense? Absolutely awful. Urshifu Water is just a way better way to do what Kingler does. Its G-Max move though, I will say, it's something. It is something, it doubly lowering speed, which is just a better max strike but water type. And base 75 speed with that is kind of good, but other than that, it's just got nothing for it. Wait, Assault Vest isn't going to help it when its special bulk is that low. So just, if you're wanting to use this thing, you can, but you're going to have a hard time. And if you're wanting to find alternatives, look at Urshifu Water, it's great. That damage output, phenomenal. It doesn't even need to Dynamax. And it gets Aqua Jet priority, something that Kingler does not. Yeah, you just basically got a better version of Kingler right there. So yeah, overall, G-Max Kingler, not at all great. It has no place in the format. The only thing Urshifu Water doesn't have over this is the coverage, but Urshifu Water hits equally as hard, and priority is such a big thing and it's actually got usable bulk on the special side because it's got a higher HP stat and slightly higher special defense, not much though. Also, I'm noticing that Kingler gets Ally Switch, which is hilarious, but there's no way you'd want to use Ally Switch Kingler of all things. And once again, Ally Switch is not going to help you when you're Dynamax. Sure, it's going to be a max guard, but so's Protect. They're not even running Protect. Oh no. Oh, so yeah, Kingler overall really bad. But that is going to be it for this tier list. Thank you all so much for watching. Really appreciate it. I know this is a longer tier list video, but you know, there are so many Dynamax forms. So thanks for sticking around if you did. If you want to see more of my content, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you haven't, all that good stuff for the YouTube algorithm. And while you're at it, follow me on Twitch as I stream 3 times a week, and in fact, after recording this, I'm about to stream now in half an hour, so whoop, that's hype. VGC laddering time. Also follow me on Twitter because that's where I'll be posting the final results of these tier lists. So if you want to check out my other ones, all the links to the videos will be on my Twitter, as well as the final results. But yeah, I'm rather happy with this, so thank you all so much for watching. See you all later. Bye!